Hello guys, I'm making another video here. This 2005 Toyota Camry had the check engine light on due to a small Evap leak, and of course it was not going to pass the small check. I ran the scanner on it and I got a code P0442. To correct the problem, you have to locate where is the Evap leak coming from. The easiest way to do this is to connect the smoke machine to the emissions hose under the hood of the vehicle. Then take some bias strips and crimp the emissions hose near the gas tank. Blow some smoke through and look for any leaks. Now, I already went on and fixed the problem, and I do apologize for not filming while I was doing the repair due to being in a rush. So I'm going to show you guys how I corrected this problem and got my check engine light turned off. First, you want to start with the cheapest method. So first, check the gas cap. You could have a bad gas cap that needs replacement, or it may be just loose and maybe not turned on tight. And that might be the cause on why you have a small Evap leak. In my case, I purchased a new gas cap and the check engine light did not turn off. So I went to the next step, which is to check my emission hoses for any looseness, damages, or cracks. But first, I had to remove this panel because the emission hoses are underneath it. To remove it, I needed a 5mm hex L key for these 3 screws. Gently pull it, careful not to break it. These hoses are part of the emission system. There are 4 hoses, but there's a main emission hose, and I'll show you that in a minute. This is the main emission hose that comes from the gas tank. Here you will connect the smoke machine to the Evap access port, which is this green plastic cap. If you're using a factory-made smoke machine, in my case, I am using a homemade smoke machine, which will not work on this port. Before connecting my smoke machine, I did a visual inspection on all the hoses that has to do with the emission system. I didn't find any loose hoses or cracked hoses or any damaged hoses at all. So I assumed that the problem was not coming from any of the hoses, and I went to the next step, and that was to check the purge valve. The purge valve removes excess fuel vapors from the Evap system and draws them into the engine to burn. When this goes bad, the purge valve won't close properly anymore when you turn off your vehicle, causing a small Evap leak. So this is how I checked it to see if it was bad or not. I unplugged it from here, and there are 2 prongs that connect to this little blue connector here. I used 2 wires with alligator clips on each end and 2 small nails attached to the alligator clip of the red wire and the black wire. Since the prongs coming out of the purge valve are very small, I needed these 2 small nails to touch the prongs. I took the other end of each wire, hooked the alligator clip to each terminal of the battery. In this case, it doesn't matter what side of the battery post you hook up these wires, but I went on and just hooked up the black to the negative, red to the positive. Now I took the other end where the nails were clipped to, and I touched the black wire to one prong of the purge valve and the red wire to the other prong of the purge valve. Now what I was looking for was a click coming from the purge valve. If it clicked, that meant that the valve was still good. In my case, I did hear a click, and that meant that the valve opened, which meant it was still good. And I checked it without removing the purge valve. You can remove it if you wish, but there's no need to in this case. Then I went to the next step, which was to connect the smoke machine. So I connected the smoke machine to the Evap hose. I removed this clamp here with some pliers, and after that I plugged the smoke machine to this little tube here. This is a homemade smoke machine that I made, in which I did make a video on how I made this. So I plugged it to the wall, and after 5 minutes it started creating smoke. I plugged my compressor to it at very low pressure, just enough to give me smoke. So I took the hose and I plugged it to the small tube where I removed the emissions hose, because now I suspected that the small evap leak was coming from one of the hoses. After I connected the smoke machine and started blowing smoke through the emission system, I noticed a very small smoke leak coming out from one of these hoses. Now, I am going to tell you something about these hoses. Due to exposure to extreme heat, these hoses can become hard and brittle and can break trying to disconnect them. So therefore, I was not messing with the other hoses, but only the one that I needed to disconnect. So after I found the small evap leak, I went on and just replaced all of them. So this is where I was looking for a smoke leak. This hose here, this connection here, and this one, and this connection here. And this last connection here. And this is where I found a small smoke leak that turned out to be the small evap leak. So I went on and replaced all small 4 hoses, but not the evap hose coming from the gas tank. I put the panel back on, and I drove the car around as I would normally drive it around doing errands. And I purposely drove it around the city on regular stop and go traffic. Stopped at a store as if I was going to go inside, cut the car off, waited for 5 minutes, cut the car back on. So I did that a few times. And driving the car back home, the check engine light magically turned off. And now I am going to show you guys that there's no more check engine light on my dashboard. Check engine light is on the bottom right hand side, and now it's gone. This concludes the video, guys. Hopefully this video is helpful to many of you out there, and thank you for watching.